Welcome back. In the last lecture, I had a look at what JSX actually is, and it is important to understand this. Now, in this lecture, I want to highlight some of the restrictions we face. For example, this class name thing here, JSX clearly looks like HTML, and it should allow us to write HTML-ish code in our JavaScript file. Still, since isn't JavaScript file, and since it is JavaScript, some words can't be used. Class, for example, which we would use in normal HTML to assign a CSS class, can't be used because class word is reserved here to make component. We already use it here, by the way, to create a new class. This is why we have to use class name. All these elements you can use here, like div, h1, are actually managed or provided by the React library. We are not using the real HTML tags. React is converting them behind the scene, and React defines the attribute in quotation marks, I should say. We can define on all these elements, and we don't have the class attribute as we have on regular HTML. We have the class name attribute here to add as a CSS class. As you can see here in the final code, the JavaScript developer React app is convert and retranslated to the class name as a class to the normal HTML. So this is whenever we have to style our code, style our h1 tag or div some kind, we have to use class name. Now another restriction we face is that when we return something here, let's say we will want to return another heading, we actually cannot do like this here, another heading. If we save, it will give us error. Now you can see here. It's a typical thing and typical best practice to wrap everything into one root element per component. So this is also make a sense since we typically want to style your opponents and want to add the CSS class which is responsible for styling to the root element as we do here. So typically you nest everything in one single root element you return. And if you're wondering about these parentheses here, these are simply used so that we can write the HTML. I'm always saying HTML, but keep in mind it's JSX. It is JavaScript so that you can return this HTML code nicely structured across multiple lines without receiving errors. This is why we use the parentheses. So if that, I could add a paragraph here between in the divs. So like here I'm calling this is another heading. Now if I get save, now you can see here it's automatically applied in one root. And we have to look at some of the restrictions or things to watch out when using JSX, because again it is not HTML, but in most cases it actually works like HTML.